It's the night of June 27th, 3 in the morning, and the quiet over the Gaza Strip is just shattered.
With explosions.
Yeah, explosions. More than 40 rockets suddenly scream out from these hidden spots, these narrow alleyways, heading for southern Israel.
Major barrage.
So today we're doing a deep dive into what happened next. We've got this really detailed account covering the rocket attack, Israel's defense, and then a very specific counterstrike.
And we're going to unpack it all. Not just the what, but the how and the why.
Exactly. How the tech worked, how the intel came together, the whole picture.
Right. Our mission here is really to pull out the key insights from this whole sequence. We'll touch on the defensive tech, the offensive tech, the intelligence gathering.
But not get bogged down in endless technical specs.
No. The goal is to give you a solid understanding of how these incredibly complex operations actually play out on the ground and in the air.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. June 27th, 3:00 a.m., Gaza. Hamas launches over 40 Qassam rockets.
And these Qassams, they're relatively simple, aren't they? About 2 meters long.
Yeah, about 60 kilos total weight, maybe a 10-kilo warhead. Pretty basic design.
Easy to hide, easy to launch from, unexpected places, often residential areas.
And the intent seems pretty clear. They program these things to hit civilian areas. Ashkelon, Nativit, aiming to cause panic, damage infrastructure.
And you've got the Hamas fighters watching from, probably behind concrete walls somewhere, hoping this surprise attack works.
Maximum range about 19 kilometers, you said?
Yeah, around that. So their target options are somewhat limited by that.
Okay, so that's the attack. Now the defense, this is where it gets really interesting, right? The Iron Dome.
Absolutely. Israel's air defense system. It's already active, already watching.
And its radar, the ELM M2084 multi-mission radar, the MMR, it's spread out across the south.
That's right. And it picks up these launches almost immediately, within seconds.
That's incredible speed.
It is. And this MMR system, it's pretty powerful. It can scan out to nearly 250 kilometers and track supposedly up to 200 targets at the same time. So when you get a volley like this, 40 rockets.
It can handle it.
It calculates the trajectory of every single one instantly. Are they heading for open fields or populated areas?
Crucial distinction. So once it figures out which ones are threats.
Signals go out to the interceptor launchers. These are strategically placed, holding 20 Tamir missiles each.
20 per launcher.
Yeah. And within maybe 10 seconds of the initial detection, you have dozens of these Tamir missiles heading up. 3
meters long, traveling at Mach 2.5. That's incredibly fast.
Supersonic. They need to be to intercept.
And the missile itself, what's it got?
It's got an 11-kilogram fragmentation warhead. The idea isn't necessarily a direct hit, but to explode close enough to destroy the incoming rocket. And it uses active radar guidance to home in.
So visually over places like Storo, it looked like fireworks.
Pretty much. Dramatic interceptions happening high up around 5,000 meters. Yeah. Lots of flashes in the dark sky.
And the result?
Metal debris rained down? Sure. But crucially, no Hamas rockets actually hit the ground in the targeted areas.
Out of 40.
According to this account, none. The Iron Dome neutralized all of them within about 15 minutes.
15 minutes! That's efficient.
Extremely. So no casualties, no significant damage reported on the Israeli side. Some debris fell, in open fields.
Yeah.
Harmlessly.
Okay, so the immediate threat is over, but this wasn't the end of it.
No, definitely not. For the Israeli military command, this attack, the scale of attack, it was seen as, the report calls it the final straw.
A clear escalation.
Yes. So an emergency meeting was called. Same morning, June 27th, IDF headquarters in Tel Aviv.
And the Air Force commander, Major General Amikam Norkin, he set the objective.
He did. 2 main goals for the counter-operation. First, eliminate a specific individual, Hakam Mohammed Isa al-Isa.
Hamas co-founder.
Yes, a very senior figure. And second, destroy a particular strategic asset, a kilometer-long tunnel in Beit Hanun.
So not just random retaliation, very specific targets.
Exactly. Aimed at degrading Hamas leadership and operational capability.
All right, so the planning kicks into high gear. Nevatim Air Base in the Negev Desert becomes the center of operations. Big base, long runway.
Perfect for this kind of thing.
Right.
And they started prepping the aircraft. 6 F-16I Sufa jets.
15 meters long, Mach 2 speed, workhorse jets.
Right. And 4 F-35I Adir stealth jets. These are the cutting-edge ones.
16 meters long, stealth coating, advanced radar, the AESO NAPG-81.
That ESA radar is key. Active electronically scanned array. It lets the F-35 track potentially, hundreds of targets out to 150 kilometers without giving away its own position easily. A huge advantage.
Okay, and the weapons, what were they loading onto these jets?
Tailored for the targets. The S-16's got 4 GBU-39 small diameter bombs each, SDBs.
Small diameter, but still potent.
Oh, yes. About 113 kilograms, 1.8 meters long. But the key is precision, GPS and inertial navigation guidance. They can supposedly hit within 5 meters of the target, even 110 kilometers away.
Wow, and the F-35s, they were for the tunnel, right?
Correct. So they carry the heavy hitters. 2 GBU-28 bunker busters each.
These are the massive ones.
Huge. Over 2,000 kilograms, almost 6 meters long, designed specifically to punch through meters of reinforced concrete. Ideal for taking out deep underground targets like that tunnel.
And they also had helicopters ready.
4 AH-64D Apaches, each armed with 8 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles, primarily for ground support, hitting targets like weapon depots with high precision.
So a mix of aircraft and weapons for different jobs, and the preparation. It took a while.
12 hours. From noon to midnight on June 27th. It was meticulous. They weren't just, strapping bombs on.
What did it involve?
Things like laser scanning the GBU-39s to check for any tiny defects that could affect accuracy. Using hydraulics to carefully load those enormous GBU-28s into the F-35's internal bays. You have to maintain stealth.
Can't have them hanging off the wings.
Exactly. And then calibrating all the navigation systems, the targeting pods, everything had to be perfect. 100% readiness was the goal.
While all this is happening at the air base, the intelligence guys are working flat out too, right? In Tel Aviv, Amman.
Correct. Amman military intelligence. They were nailing down the target locations. They used the OFEC-16 satellite.
High orbit, 600 kilometers up.
Yeah, providing incredibly detailed images. We're talking 30-centimeter resolution.
So you can literally see?
You can see hidden rocket launchers tucked away in residential areas. You could map out that whole 1-kilometer tunnel in Beit Hanun. Even spot its hidden entrances, maybe disguised under abandoned houses.
Incredible detail. And then there's Unit 8200. Signal intelligence.
Yes, SIGINT. They were intercepting Hamas communications, listening in.
Encrypted calls.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Picked up by listening posts near the West Bank and the Gaza border. And this is reportedly how they pinpointed al-Issa's location, a specific house in Sabra, Gaza City.
Just from intercepts.
Well, the account says it was confirmed by human intelligence, too. Undercover assets on the ground in Gaza, providing real-time info on his movements. Corroboration is key.
Okay, so satellite eyes, electronic ears, and people on the ground. What else? Drones.
Definitely. Drone surveillance was crucial. Hermes 450 and 500 drones flying high around 5,500 meters on the evening of June 28th.
What were they looking for?
Using infrared cameras, primarily. Looking for heat signatures. Heat from tunnel entrances, maybe ventilation shafts. Heat from groups of Hamas fighters moving around.
Gathering all that data, what do they do with it?
It all gets fused. Satellite images, SIGINT intercepts, drone feeds, human intel reports. It's all fed into specialized intelligence software.
Creating what? A map?
More than that. Highly accurate 3D maps of the targets. Precise down to supposedly a single meter. This fusion is what enables those really surgical strikes we hear about.
Okay, so by 8:000 p.m. on June 28, they've got the targets nailed down, the planes are ready, the final plan comes together at Nevatim Command Center.
That's right. Air Force officers, intelligence experts, all finalizing the details. 3 main lines of attack were confirmed.
Which were?
1. Eliminate al-Issa in Sabra. That was assigned to 4 F-16s using those GBU-39 precision bombs.
Okay.
2. Destroy Hamas weapon depots in northern Gaza. That was for 2 F-16s, also with GBU-39s, plus the 4 Apache helicopters with their Hellfire missiles.
Got it. And 3.
3. Demolish the Beit Hanun tunnel. That was the job for the 4 F-35I stealth jets, carrying the GBU-28 bunker busters.
A very specific allocation of forces to targets. But it wasn't just planning, right? The pilots trained.
Oh, yeah. 6 hours of intensive simulator training. These aren't just video games. They're incredibly realistic.
Mimicking Gaza.
Exactly. The terrain, the potential threats. Pilots practiced their bomb drops, making sure they could adjust trajectories to minimize risk to nearby civilian areas. They rehearsed emergency scenarios too. What if they take anti-aircraft fire? What if their radar gets jammed?
And the Apache pilots.
They practiced Hellfire targeting specifically in conditions like thick smoke, ensuring they could still hit accurately. Every pilot got detailed digital 3D maps of their specific targets and known threats.
Communication must have been critical. How did they manage that securely?
They used an encrypted system, ELZ-2100 apparently. It linked the pilots, the command center, the drones overhead, and the encryption keys, the signals, changed every 10 seconds.
To prevent Hamas from listening in or jamming.
Precisely, making interception extremely difficult.
And the conditions on the night?
Perfect, according to the account. Clear skies, very little wind, and critically, Hamas seemed to be at a low alert level. Perhaps they didn't expect such a swift or specific response.
So the plan gets the final green light.
Approved at 11:00 p.m. on June 28th. The Air Force commander's order was apparently very clear. Execute with precision, no compromises.
Midnight, June 29th. The sky over Gaza is dark, just scattered lights here and there. And then from Nevada.
The jets roar to life. F-16s, F-35s, climbing fast, heading towards Gaza at high altitude, maybe 12,000 meters, moving at around 900 kilometers per hour.
And the Apaches.
Flying low, very low, maybe 50 meters off the ground, hugging the terrain. That helps them stay under the detection threshold of any more primitive Hamas radar systems.
While the Hermes drones are still up high.
Yep, around 6,000 meters. Watching everything, sending back real-time infrared imagery to the command center at Nevada.
What was the atmosphere like in that control room?
Tense, you'd imagine.
Air.
But focused. Officers watching multiple screens, tracking every aircraft, every drone feed. The mission commander orders a final check of all systems.
And the pilots.
Reports indicate they sounded confident, confirming clear skies, confirming they had locked onto their assigned targets, years of training, hours of specific prep. It all comes down to this moment.
Okay, the strike on Sabra, Al-Isa's location, how did that unfold?
4 X-16s released their payloads, 16 GBU-39 SDBs in total. They likely performed a dive, maybe hitting 1,200 kilometers, releasing the bombs.
And the impact?
Devastating. Huge explosions tearing through the darkness. Shockwaves felt across the area. Flames, thick black smoke rising maybe 100 meters. It left a significant crater, maybe 10 meters deep, and there were secondary explosions too.
Yeah, the account mentions secondary blasts from things like weapon trucks, maybe underground rocket bunkers that were co-located, lighting up the sky even more, indicating successful hits on more than just the primary target structure.
Right, and at the same time, the Apaches were hitting the weapon depots in northern Gaza.
Exactly. The 4 Apaches fired 16 Hellfire missiles in total, flying low using their semi-active laser guidance for pinpoint accuracy.
What was the effect there?
Warehouses just collapsed. And one Hellfire apparently hit a fuel tank, caused a massive fireball, maybe 500 meters in radius, a huge secondary explosion lighting up the whole area.
Okay, so Sabra hit, northern Gaza depots hit, then the big one, the tunnel in Beit Hanun with the F-35s.
Right. 4 F-35I jets, dropping 4 GBU-28 bunker busters. They released from high altitude, maybe 10,000 meters, likely approaching the speed of sound.
Letting gravity and the bomb's design do the work.
Precisely. These bombs, with their heavy steel penetrator warheads, they just sliced through the earth and concrete, aiming for the tunnel entrances identified by intelligence.
And the impact of those bunker busters.
Described as creating an artificial earthquake. The simultaneous detonations of these massive bombs just collapsed the entire kilometer-long structure underground.
Pancaked it.
Seems like it. The aftermath was pretty dramatic. Dust clouds rising 300 meters, engulfing the area like a sandstorm. Nearby buildings reported cracked walls from the sheer force of the blasts.
And the drone images
Showed 4 deep craters, maybe 15 meters deep, where the entrances presumably were, amidst all the smoke and dust. That strategic tunnel, described as Hamas's lifeblood in some reports, basically reduced to rubble. Hundreds of tons of reinforced concrete, ventilation systems, all buried.
A major strategic blow.
Absolutely. Now, while all this is happening, Hamas isn't just sitting there, right? They tried to react.
They did. But they were clearly caught off guard by the speed and precision. Reports suggest mid-level commanders and bunkers were frantically ordering some kind of counterattack.
What could they do against that kind of air power?
Not much, realistically. They fired their ZU-23-2 anti-aircraft guns. These are 23-millimeter cannons, rapid fire, maybe 2,000 rounds per minute. You'd see the tracer lights going up.
As ineffective?
Completely. The Israeli jets were flying way too high, far beyond the 2.5-kilometer effective range of those guns.
And there's this interesting detail about radar jamming.
Yes. Apparently, some Hamas units tried to use these homemade radars, possibly based on older Russian tech, to try and detect the incoming jets.
But the F-35s.
The F-35's advanced ESA radar has powerful electronic warfare capabilities. It seems it effectively jammed the Hamas radars. Not only jammed them, but displayed dozens of false targets on their screens.
So the gunners were just firing blind.
Firing into empty sky, chasing ghosts, essentially. Total confusion.
And communications were jammed too.
Yeah, electronic jamming, likely from Israeli drones or other EW platforms, severely disrupted their ability to coordinate any kind of response. Reports describe a growing sense of despair among Hamas commanders as they realized they couldn't stop the assault.
So back in the Nevatim control room, the mission concludes. What are they seeing?
They're getting the real-time drone feeds. Battle Damage Assessment, or BDA. The images confirmed the destruction at the Sabra site, and intelligence likely confirmed Alice's elimination shortly after.
And the tunnel.
Confirmed. Completely collapsed. Unusable. At that point, the mission commander declared it a success. Relief, probably, but mission accomplished.
The elimination of Alisa. How significant was that?
It was considered a major blow. As mentioned, he was a co-founder, a senior commander. Intelligence linked him directly to planning major attacks, including the October 7th, 2023 assault. Taking him out was a key objective.
And the physical impact on the ground was substantial.
Definitely. That Sabra strike left a big crater, took out hideouts, command bunkers. It certainly caused panic among civilians living nearby, which is always a tragic consequence in these situations.
And the tunnel collapse.
A huge strategic defeat for Hamas. That wasn't just a passageway. It was likely used for moving fighters, weapons, storing supplies, command posts. Burying that much infrastructure is a significant setback.
So mission done. The planes head back.
Yep. F-16s and F-35s returned to Nevatim, likely flying back over the Mediterranean. Pilots tired, no doubt, but successful.
And the Apaches?
Flew back low, carefully avoiding populated areas. Meanwhile, the Hermes drone stayed on station over Gaza for another 30 minutes or so.
Why?
Just monitoring, making sure there wasn't any immediate organized retaliation being launched, gathering final intelligence.
It really showcases the level of coordination involved.
Absolutely. Air Force, intelligence, technology, the weapon systems, the pilots, all working together to achieve very specific strategic objectives with remarkable precision.
So wrapping this deep dive up, it's clear how all these elements, the precision targeting, the advanced intelligence, the specific technologies converge in what was obviously a highly complex military operation.
Right. And the sources we looked at suggest it definitely weakened Hamas's military capabilities, took out key leadership, disrupted their infrastructure significantly.
But as you often see in these situations, it also likely raised tensions further.
That's the difficult question, isn't it? Will an operation like this, however surgical, lead towards any kind of lasting peace or stability? Or does it just become part of another cycle of violence?
And what does this level of technological dominance, this precision, actually mean for the future of warfare? Especially when it's conducted in such densely populated, contested areas like Gaza.
It raises profound questions about proportionality, civilian risk, and the long-term consequences.
Definitely things to reflect on. The complexities are immense, and the ripple effects of events like these spread far beyond the immediate battlefield, impacting the entire geopolitical landscape.